Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So in the overnight session, we've seen that the sell side has been more dominant and more active, but our short-term bias continues to be neutral and we are open to a short-term directional move on either side. The bigger question that we're going to be answering this morning is whether the breakout that we saw in NQ yesterday and the strong upside move that we saw in TF yesterday is actually valid and legitimate, and whether we are going to see follow through today. Now, so far, the other markets have been holding up fairly well in the overnight session, and even ES has been attracting buyers around that 52 half to 53 high volume node. So there is still potential for the buy side to step in. And how the market responds to this 52 to 53 area and perhaps pre-market support will provide a good tell on future pricing. And we'll also be keeping an eye on the other markets because NASDAQ is really the market that put in the breakout to new highs. And we'll be watching to see how NQ is holding up. If it continues to hold up fairly well and it continues to hold, for example, its overnight low and the HVN at the 48.72 half level, then it serves as an indication that buyers are still fairly active. But if we start seeing complete weakness in those other markets and sustained downside momentum, then it would serve as a confirmation that we have a failed breakout scenario, in which case we can get some directional movement to the downside into the 40 half to 42 half support and 36 to 38 half, which marks last week's low. And then from there, we'll have to see just how weak things are. If we're looking at very weak internals and continued downside momentum, then perhaps we go lower. Otherwise, that 36 to 38 half zone is still an area where responsive buyers can defend and be active on first test. On the upside, we have the first area of resistance at 56 to 58. It's not a strong zone, it's pre-market resistance, and if we are heading higher on decent momentum, or if we're heading higher with the NASDAQ continuing to make new highs or head back up towards the highs, then 56 to 58 may not hold. So the scenario where 56.58 can hold is when there's just a complete lack of upside momentum, continued weakness on the underlying internals, and NASDAQ and Russell are behaving pretty weak as well. But if we start to launch off of this 52-53 area to the upside, and we're doing so on strong upside momentum and participation from the other markets, then 56.58 is just a short-term hurdle. We have the gap fill of 59. The main area of resistance on the day time frame is going to be 62.64. And again, if NASDAQ is breaking to yet another new high, then even the 62.64 zone doesn't necessarily have to hold. Because remember, the bigger question we're trying to answer is whether yesterday's breakout attempt was legitimate and whether there's going to be follow through. If there is follow through and NASDAQ's breaking out higher and Russell's making new highs beyond yesterday's high of 1253.1, then it would signal directionality, it would signal a successful breakout, and if that's the case, then we can go up into the 66 half to 68 half resistance. That's still an area where sell side could be active, especially if we go there in a straight line without really pausing or balancing in between. And we could even tag the 70.75 to 72.75 resistance zone. So right now, the big targets are up at 70.75 to 72.75, or at least the 66 half, 68 half. And in the event of a failed breakout attempt and a complete reversal, we can go down into 36 to 38 half and potentially 31 half to 33 half. So right now, there is potential for a short-term directional move, whether it's down to 36 to 38 half or whether it's up to the 66 half, 68 half, and potentially 70.75 to 72.75. That's what we're going to be trying to determine off the open. and how the other markets behave, how the underlying momentum is shaping up, is going to help us figure that out. Because in order to go directional one way or the other, we're going to need to see that sustained momentum on the NYSE tick. So off the open, keep an eye on this 52 half to 53 high volume node. How the market responds here will provide a bit of a tell. Keep an eye on the other markets. So far, like I said, they are holding up well, so there is still potential for buy side to step in yet again. So we'll be watching for that off the open. And those are the main ideas. Let's see which scenario plays out, and we'll take it from there.